next presentation by Úrsula Oswald Spring. She is an ecologist. She's a researcher at the UNAM and at the Regional Center for Multidisciplinary Disciplines. She is a member of the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change and a national coordinator for the theme network of CONACYT. She was a former Secretary General of the College of Tlaxcala and the first incumbent of the chair on social vulnerability, diminution from the Universities of the United Nations in Bonn, Germany. The topic she will address is a systemic analysis for the management of water. Good morning. Thank you to INEGI, to UAM. I am always very pleased to come back because many years ago I had to teach class in chicken coops and around here, so I'm so glad one was consolidated, really. And I want to insist that because we have experienced many processes in regard to the systemic analysis of the management of water in Mexico. I'd like to focus my presentation on what the theme network for water has done, because this is a liaison we could establish between the academia, the government, the private enterprise, the private sector. The networks CONACYT started developing and building, and then show the complexity of the social and environmental analysis, where water is one of the main actors, and then to speak about the services, the coverage of services for drinking water, and then to relate it to the climate change and serious issues. We are one of the countries that are most affected by the climate change from now on, and then the models are not very encouraging if we look at the future. And then we would like to submit a proposal of 5 networks of CONACYT: the disaster network, the environmental network, the food network, biodiversity network, and the water network, where we would like to submit a proposal of environmental observation, the RENOA and the INIFAC, that is part of this work. And then I would like to finish by referring to a systemic model that we elaborated with the Water Network Partnership and the WNP. And then what we will present 53 researchers that participated, and we have a catalog on human resources, information on infrastructure, on corporations, multi-institutional academic products. Because the networks do not provide projects, we are creating the conditions, fostering the conditions to be able to resolve many issues at the regional level, very concrete projects, the management of a very complex basin that starts in the Popocatépetl and 22 kilometers later, and with the deforestation, the many floodings a year. So this is a very concrete model for this basin, and with INEGI we still have a lot of work to be done jointly, and I have been fascinated by what can be done. And Dr. Rosario Pérez Espejo is here after having delved into the water footprint here in Mexico. So we invite you to participate in this project, and obviously we are interested in the fluor-arsenic topic, because with the overexploitation of the aquifers in Aguascalientes, 8% of the children of less than 5 years old are requiring kidney transplant because they have been damaged in the water consumption. and this is a crucial topic of financing, and what those who have participated in the Senate, they included the water as a human right, together with the High Chamber constitutional change that was approved in October, and we still need a regulation whereby we would love everybody to participate with us, but we would love you to participate in the creation of a national project for integrated research on water resources. And here we should come up with a new policy for all of us. So here goes the complexity of my analysis, and I have here a whole set of 3 circles. The circle, the climatic circle, the water circle, the circle of biodiversity, and their impact on the lands and soils with certification, degradation, and the natural phenomena that have been exacerbated anthropogenically, and the anthropogenic issues and the complexity that ties them all. But all of this leads us towards a water stress, more adaptation, and leads us towards a model of environmental change at a global level. On the one hand, we have climate change, we have urbanization, but we also have globalization, poverty, we have all the social and economic phenomena that exacerbate the situation. And here we have the next model where we go beyond the OECD, because we start with the stress, where we tie the land system, there's a biodiversity, soils, water, and climate change, tie them with the processes, human processes, population growth, and we don't want to be Malthusian, but population is impacting in Mexico, losing ground in Mexico, losing availability of water per capita. We have the rural systems that are so complex because water footprint, how are we going to quantify it in regard to the many crops where we have just water, bottled water, or microaspersion, and they all have a very different water footprint. And this is a lot more complex than what we saw this morning, or urban processes and urban processes and industrial processes, and degradation, the biota and scantiness, and of course this leads to stress. And this model is exacerbated by the contextualization of the world policies, national and local policies, and by the social and economic global context we are currently living in. So on the one hand, we have these phenomena, these hydrometeorological phenomena that are associated with the climate change phenomena, but hydrogeological phenomena, and we will have now a publication on extreme events from the APCC that would have a first discussion on the extremes, hydrological extremes that we're experiencing, and where we can have breaking points. But what matters are the social consequences, and this is lacking, is absent in the OECD models. How can I solve a crisis? What's my method? Should I find more conflicts? And the latest information from CONAGUA, there are about 390,000 conflicts, and a secretary, I had to face 12 kidnappings that day, and I had to negotiate conflicts in those localities because water plays a big role here. We have crises, we have migrations, and the environmental refugees, we will have millions of them that will leave. And the processes in Mexico, we have seen a clear interrelation between the greater droughts, more climate variability, and migration towards different zones. If you think that the INEGI data between 1992, 2000, 2005, you will see that the municipal map has substantially changed because of the migration from drought zones. Because of a lack of mitigation and adaptation, we have not had any positive process. And finally here, and this is a crucial point, and this is where we have to join hands, the political response and the policies do not belong only to the government. It is our own answer, private initiative, the organized society, the academia, and of course, the government.
We have to start developing integral policies in order to make headway towards this process. And this takes us, obviously, to a feedback, as you can see at this level, which allows us that we have a country in peace or in conflict with confrontations, both natural and social, and socio-environmental sustainability, a country with urban planning, rural planning, with a capacity to produce food. I don't know if you have read the data of this exennium, where we have more than 83,000 persons who have died from hunger. We are a country of origin of olive corn, cocoa, and many other products, but there's a serious problem in social and systemic principles. Water is a crucial topic, and the coverage in excess, and then the lack of drinking water and sanitation, which is one of the most important topics and which are crucial. In 94, when I was able to make drinking water in the state of Morelos, we reduced in 1 year the infant death mortality in 65%. Running water is not clean water, is not drinking water, and this is crucial. Of course, it has to do it doesn't mean that we don't want to work on it, but the infrastructure and the distribution by ratios, there are changes and there are vacuums, and there are what will happen if the pipes are broken and there are ions of chlorides and other microorganisms in the pipe, and the results are drinking water that is not drinking water at all. And the problem goes concretely to the statistics. Now, here we have a service that we had in 97, and what we have considered for 2020, where we would have an estimate of a population of 121 million. So we have to start preventing this problem in order to establish priorities. So what does drinking water mean to all of us? On the one hand, we have to remember that 80% of diseases are directly associated to water. It's crucial to manage water appropriately. So we would have to change, and I have worked not only with water, but in the safety of water, and not national security, but human security, environmental security, and gender security. And in English, this plays very well because it's a huge security. And this immense security provides quality of life and well-being. They should be free of organisms, bacteria, toxic substances, both inorganic and organic. Here the problems with overexploitation of aquifers, but here we also have a problem that is aesthetically acceptable. I don't like brown or gray water. We want it transparent without a smell or a flavor. So this is the coverage of the sewage system. As you can see, this is the northern area where we have a good coverage. We go towards the central part, which is the service is regular, toward the south and the eastern part of the country. The coverage is quite deficient, and the sewage system is that if you don't have a sewage system, I just throw waste to everything has become a drainage area. I just throw this to the abyss, and in systemic terms, we have to put in the problems of the climate change, drought, cyclones, storms, flooding, that are short in time, excess water, and then drought, and then the erosion of the coastline and salinization of the aquifers. And I would like to arrive to the drought in 2012, where suddenly we discovered that it's 14 states that have been affected, that there are enormous problems due to dehydration. In 2003, I was impacted by the statistics of the deaths in Europe, where the final data was 80,000 deaths, when we had 3 days of extreme heat in an area where the heat is even at higher temperatures. We have to rethink things. So Cedesol saves lives at the expense of livestock and agriculture. And here we have a crucial topic, a political negotiation. What are we to do with perverse subsidies in irrigation water, in electric power and gasoline? How far can this take us to waste and not to the saving of water? How can we change the culture of producers, systems of damming the water, treatment of water, of used water, reuse of water, control of pollution, to take care of aquifers, because generally we have infiltrations and obviously changes of cultures. And instead of producing cows in Chihuahua, we might have animals of smaller size that use less water, less food, that are more efficient. In UNAM, we had mini cows, and maybe we can go back to the veterinary model where we would have a greater potential. You can see that drought is not a problem that is a spin-off of the climate change. What we can see in these graphs, and I hope we can work with INEGI, the new plots, because it will be worse than what we have seen. You can see that for each important drought, we have advanced deeply into the country, areas that were not affected by the drought right now due to urbanization and deforestation. We are basically a forestry country, and we have forgotten this, and we have a serious problem along these lines. These were the probable problems we would have with the production of corn. And this is important when we remember that 85% of malnutrition are in the seasonal areas of our rural country. So here we have a crucial problem, clear problem. How can we improve? Well, we are proposing this network and the RENOA observatories, where we want to link hydrology, meteorology, oceanography systems with socioeconomic aspects. Goals of the RENOA, you can read them later, because I want to go into the topic, which is the systemic management of water. What happens in terms of water? How would we need to make a full integral management of water? On the one hand, we could take the PESO model, and we start with stress, demography, social organization, economy, finances, politics, legal aspects. LAM requires an urgent change. It is not functional. Technology, are there possibilities? Which one can we use? Which isn't useful? Environment, the whole entourage that is being altered. This brings about, obviously, a process that of demands where we have different types of water resources, rainfall, aquifers, lakes, dams, residual water, wastewater, and water in the soil. All this has to be taken into account in order to verify the uses of water. So the uses of water, we have them on the households, agricultural, recreational, transportational, and the environment, which has its rights. And here we find the demands, well-being, security, well-being, food safety, and human safety, safety of gender. It's the women who suffer due to the lack of health, work, income, recreation. We all want this, so we go to the topic of the government answer, where nature is the first answer. We destroy nature. If we destroy the resources, obviously there will be no water. And in the land, when we modified it, we had a problem with President Fox because he was a farmer, and only in a given moment we could introduce the rights of nature. But with the amendment, we have provided a chance to change the problem. But it's three actors that have to act together: entrepreneurs, the population, and governments, in order to establish strategies to take into account the international interrelations, local interrelations, regional agriculture, the resource handled in a multiple way, so we can face the environmental world change. And this takes us to a model of permanent modification. So we have water for the future, the 232 million, and maybe we'll have 125 million if we don't have a birth control policy. It's not for free that we suddenly have more freedom. It's because that we have limited support to systems of birth control. And this, of course, has a repercussion. And suddenly Neji is frightened because there are many millions of Mexicans more. But this is the result of a policy. But the processes do not arise from nothing. There is a cause for this. If we continue in this chaos as the one we have in the state of Mexico, Hidalgo, Tlaxcala, one part of Morelos, obviously we cannot continue with megalopolis because the cost is enormous. And if we continue draining this valley, we will not have water. But here we have social organization. Who has the right? What amount can we continue using? The basins, 92% of water for agriculture, and that represents 3% of the GDP. Here we have the environment and we have hydrometeorological events. So beware. Things are very complex and we have to start working in order to solve all this. And this was our goal, the goal we had at the RETAC, to try to make all sectors be involved, establish qualitative and quantitative reports and systemic reports in order to understand problems, link the section of the water economy, which is crucial. The water has a value as a cultural good, but also it is also an economic good. So we have the value in its use and in its change. And this implies in this cycle we are carrying out, it represents a process, a guarantee of a minimum of water for each person that is constitutionally guaranteed. How are we going to go about it? That's the next question. Who will invest? Who will be in charge? How we will be establish mandatory mechanisms to those in charge of this? How are you going to spend the resources in ads or in public investments? So this is the crucial point in order to solve all this. And this has been the work of the RETAC, the water network of CONACYT, and work with other institutions, because we are 250 researchers inscribed and 1,200 participate in the web page. And the web page I just saw, well, it erased. It's my email is www.retac, CRIM-UNAM.mx. Here you can have access to all the systems we have established. You can see the news, you can see the different work that is carried out, and this we have the opportunity of presenting a book where 253 researchers have participated. But we see that the Academy has systems to determine what is going on. So we are able to manage water in an integral way. Thank you very much.